So that's all the little pots in the tray. As you can see, you can simply pick up 30 pots in one go now, which makes it real handy. And there's no real spaces in between. So we'll fill them up now with compost. So that's all the little pots filled with compost. Now we're gonna put the OCAs on top. We'll put one in each. When we plant seeds into modules or into pots, we usually plant 2 or 3, if they're large seeds, 2 or 3 into each module or pot. But in this case, because these OCAs are about the right size for the pots, these are very small pots, so that's them all placed. And we're just going to simply push them down just very gently, maybe about ½ inch to 1 inch down, or 1 to 2 centimeters, so that we can cover them with a bit of soil and they don't dry out, so they're well covered with a bit of compost in the end. So we'll take a bit of compost and simply put it on top. Very gently. We don't need to be pushing down on these. That way they have an easy way to grow up out of the compost. Just covering the top of the tubers, same as you would with seeds. Of course, you wouldn't use this type of compost. You'd use seed starting compost. Once again, we just distribute the compost very gently. Try and break up any lumps that are in it. It's not seed starting compost. This is much more nutritious compost. You'd normally use this for mature plants, but the tubers will be able to absorb its nutrients fairly quickly once they come out and develop a few roots. They usually grow much quicker than seed, of course. They have a lot more energy stored in them. That's it. And that's the tray done. And we're simply going to place it over here with all the other trays. There's a few red OCAs already done. And there's a few different types of yacon. And a few more Jerusalem artichokes. And here's a label. Good thing about using these trays is you only need one label for a whole bunch of pots. This is 30 pots in one go. So, and of course you can transport it so much easier rather than bringing each pot one by one. That's some OCA here, white and red. And yeah, basically I'd like to repot everything I have or plant it out so that it doesn't end up in the pots for too long, because it doesn't grow any bigger and it's going to get pot bound as well, as you can see here. Look at that. That plant has exhausted its rooting space, so that needs to be planted out. Here's an OCA plant after spending about 4 weeks in the greenhouse. You just planted small tubers into a relatively small pot. And you get a plant out of it then that you can plant directly into a mulched garden, and we find that works better than direct seeding or putting the tubers down into the ground directly, because then you can mulch them straight away as well. Now there's about 30 or 35 OCA plants planted. This is actually a white variety. And we'll see how much of a yield we'll get out of this. About 1 square meter, maybe 1.5 square meters by the time the plants have filled out. And I'm sure they'll take up about that much space anyway that you see here, where you see the wood chips here. We know that one plant can take up about 1 square meter if you leave it growing in a well mulched system and completely on its own, with no other plants kind of restricting it. And we'll go ahead and mulch these now with the wood chips, and we'll do a harvest video on these 30 OCAs planted on this 1.5 or maybe even less square meters. We'll weigh them, we'll check how many kilos or pounds we'll get out of them at the end of the growing season when they've died back fully. I'll tell you what, we'll let you guys guess. Comment on YouTube on the video your best guess how many kilos or pounds we'll get out of these, and whoever comes closest will post you out a sample. Here's a sneak peek at one of our new varieties of OCA that we're growing this year. It's called Strawberries and Cream. You can see it's kind of a nice purple colour, very different from the New Zealand Red. There you are now. They're all going in the ground now. They've all been in the greenhouse for a good while and fairly densely planted here because we're actually going to run out of space in the new garden. Turn it upside down and hopefully we'll get plenty of them out of it. There's a good few. Look at that.